Let me tell you how one of the most disciplined, most tradition-bound warships in the U.S. Navy got turned upside down, not by an enemy fleet, not by sabotage, but by a woman nobody even saw coming. And how? In the space of a single day, every single person on that ship had to reevaluate everything they thought they knew about authority, respect, and what it really means to lead. I watched a man with medals all across his chest, a guy who could probably command a small country if he wanted, get taught the hardest lesson of his career by a civilian who moved so quietly. Most folks would swear she wasn't even there, until she was everywhere. You know what I mean? So, there we were. The USS Aegis, sliding through the Pacific, all 5,000 of us bracing for Operation Stillwater. Some super-classified missile defense drill, months of planning, all eyes on us, including a bunch of foreign observers who looked like they ate protocol for breakfast. Admiral Zephyr Thorne, the top dog, was on the bridge, looking out over his crew like the king of a very expensive, very polished castle, sunlight bouncing off every surface, everyone moving with that kind of tension you get right before a big test. Off to the side, by the navigation console, was Merritt Aldrich. Silver hair pulled back, navy pants suit that basically screamed, "Don't look at me." She was jotting notes in a little black notebook. Invisible in plain sight, the kind of invisible that comes from decades of practice, not magic. People brushed right by her. Lieutenant Commander Farrow dropped off reports. 3 analysts whispered over trajectory maps. Nobody questioned her. She liked it that way, or maybe she needed it. Armor made of being overlooked. That lasted right up until Admiral Thorne noticed her. And let me tell you, you could feel the temperature drop. "Who authorized a civilian on my bridge?" He barked, and the whole room went silent. Eyes darting to Merritt like she'd just appeared from thin air. Nobody answered. Merritt just closed her notebook, calm as you please, reading every face in the room, watching who flinched, who stared, and who maybe knew more than they let on. Security got called. "Escort this woman to the visitor quarters," Thorne ordered, and Farrow, strict but not cruel, stepped up, "Ma'am." And Merritt thanked him with a quiet authority that almost made him salute. She checked her watch. 90 minutes to go before the drill started. She went over her notes, jotted down a code on a fresh page, folded it into her jacket, and waited. 87 minutes later. Yeah, she was counting. A weathered old chief petty officer knocked at her door. "Director." As they neared the bridge, the chief murmured, "Phase 1 complete. System lockdown in 3 minutes." Merritt just nodded, eyes fixed ahead. Now, the bridge was a pressure cooker. Every word carrying the weight of an international incident. Thorne tried everything. His codes, emergency protocols, nothing. The computer said, "Access denied." Over and over. On top of that, a weird emblem flashed and disappeared on the navigation display. A stylized eye, gone in a blink. The bridge froze. Communications restricted. Sovereignty verification required. Now everyone knew something was seriously wrong. And that's when the old chief, who had just slipped onto the bridge, made his exit. Quiet. Almost invisible. Commander Okafor, cool-headed as ever. And right on cue, the door slid open. Merritt Aldrich walked in, posture just a bit different now, like she'd shrugged off a skin and revealed steel underneath. Thorne tried to regain control. "Security, remove this woman." But Okafor raised his hand, and suddenly nobody moved. General Blackburn watched the whole thing with an expression I can only call wary respect. Merritt ignored Thorne, walked right up to the lockdown console, and entered a 16-digit code. Each number like a keystroke against everyone's assumptions. Sovereign override accepted. Shadow protocol authenticated. "Welcome, Director Aldrich," the computer intoned. On the main screen, a black hexagon with a white marking appeared. Most of the room just stared, stunned. Shadow 7 clearance, a level nobody had seen, and nobody wanted to question. Thorne went pale. General Blackburn just nodded. Merritt took her notebook back from Commander Afer with a small nod. The foreign observers snapped to attention, respect rising like the tide. Tala, who had joked earlier, turned a sickly shade of gray. Blackburn leaned in. "Never met a shadow director before? Ultimate override authority, answerable only to the President and the Joint Chiefs. You're not supposed to know they're even here." Thorne could barely speak, but managed to apologize. Merritt didn't gloat. No misunderstanding, Admiral. Security protocols worked as intended. My job requires invisibility. The bridge was so silent you could hear people's hearts beating. Merritt ran a few checks. The drill was compromised. Someone tried to access our grid. The breach is isolated. Proceed with the exercise. Thorne, still off balance, straightened and nodded, just barely getting out a thank you. The crew watched, their whole idea of command shaken. General Blackburn suggested a private debrief, but Merritt said, full briefing to those with clearance. Resume the drill in 5. She gave orders. Khatri replied, yes, Director. Like it was the most natural thing in the world. Thorne, dazed, asked quietly, how long have you been embedded in my command? Not relevant, Admiral. What matters is stopping the breach. She finished her checks, briefed Okafor, and headed for the door. Attention on deck. Okafor called, and the whole bridge, Thorne included, stood at attention. A gesture reserved for the rarest of rare. Merritt acknowledged it with a nod, then left, the chief beside her. Afterward, the bridge was a different place. People whispered about what they'd seen, trying to process it. Blackburn, after a long silence, told them, you've just seen something most never do, a shadow program operative in action. Consider yourselves lucky. Thorne told the crew to resume. His voice changed, more measured, maybe a little humbled. In the mess hall, speculation exploded. Who was she? What was the shadow program? Tala sat alone. Lesson learned the hard way. That evening, Thorne reviewed the day's data. By all measures, a success. But his mind kept returning to Merritt's 16-digit code, her calm, the level of trust the system placed in her. Okafor brought the post-exercise briefing. He'd suspected something, but orders were orders. Don't reveal, don't ask. The official report referenced a system authentication anomaly, nothing more. The real story would live in the silence between sentences. Out on the flight deck, the sun was setting. Jets returning home, deck crew choreographed in their organized chaos. Merritt watched, notebook in hand, wind teasing her silver hair. Thorne joined her, both silent for a while. How long have you been on my ship? He finally asked. 3 years, Admiral. He was shocked. I thought you were staff. That was the point. He watched the horizon, piecing it together. All this time, you've been protecting this command. She nodded. There are always threats, foreign, domestic, sometimes both. My job is to make sure safeguards work when nobody's watching. Was it successful? Mostly. Some comms issues to fix. The real test was if people followed protocol. And you did. Thorne wanted to know why he'd never been told. Someone needs to be the last line of defense. Unseen, unrecognized, ready to act when everyone else is out of moves. The shadow program. Rumors, never confirmed. Best it stays that way, Admiral. For the first time, he really saw her. Not the quiet background figure, but the force beneath it. Thank you for your service. She smiled, not triumphant, just real. Just doing my job. Like anyone else. As they walked back inside, the deck crew paused, standing at attention. Merritt nodded to them. Nothing showy, just an acknowledgement. She preferred the shadows. Didn't want the attention. At the door, Thorne asked, will you stay after we return to port? My assignment is finished. A replacement will come. Will I know who? She just smiled. What do you think, Admiral? He got it. Some secrets weren't meant for him. Walking the corridors, crew snapped to attention, word spreading about the woman who'd saved the ship. How many of you are there? Thorne wondered. Enough, she said. Spread out, all across critical infrastructure. Anonymity is what keeps us effective. At a crossroads, Thorne apologized for that morning. Merritt stopped him. You did your job. Security exists for a reason. He regretted how it went down. It's not the first time I've been escorted out, Admiral. It's part of the job. A junior officer interrupted. Okafor needed Thorne on the bridge. Duty calls. It always does, Merritt said. They shook hands, unexpectedly formal for two ghosts passing in daylight. 2 days later, as Aegis neared San Diego, Thorne realized she was gone. She'd slipped away at night. Off the ship by helicopter. No fanfare, no trace. In his post-deployment briefing, Thorne focused on technical lessons, no mention of the shadow program. The official report called the incident a redundancy protocol success. Life returned to normal, but Thorne now noticed the quiet ones at the edge of every room. The watchers, the ones who blended in. 6 months later, a new contractor appeared. Quiet, nondescript, watchful eyes. Thorne caught his gaze, nodded. Carrying on, he said. Always, sir. No need for more. In his quarterly report, Thorne wrote, all operational security protocols functioning as designed. That's as close as he'd get to acknowledging the invisible shield around his ship. The story of Merritt Aldridge became a legend among the junior officers, a mystery agent, a ghost with more power than any admiral. Thorne let them believe what they wanted. He knew the truth was quieter, more profound. The greatest guardians don't need medals, don't need recognition. They watch, they wait, and in the moment when chaos takes over, they step out of the shadows and save everything. And that, my friend, is the real shape of security, unseen, unsung, but utterly irreplaceable. If you were on that bridge, what would you have done? Do you think real authority is earned, granted, or hidden in plain sight? Let's hear your take. Share your thoughts below.